Balaam, the donkey and the angel, a story of spiritual blindness and divine irony. Imagine a story so extraordinary, so peculiar, yet utterly real that when you first read it, it almost defies understanding. Today we take a journey along the dusty, sun-baked road between Moab and Balaam, a journey where divine intervention, disobedience, spiritual blindness, and a touch of divine irony converge. This isn't merely an ancient tale from Scripture. It's a profound lesson in spiritual discernment, the nature of authority, and the unexpected ways in which God reveals truth. It's a story that challenges the way we view power, prophecy, and even the instruments God chooses to carry out His will. At the heart of this narrative is Balaam, a man whose fame spread far and wide. Though he was not of Israel, his renown as a prophet reached even the courts of kings. He was a man whose words were powerful enough to command the attention of nations. When Balaam spoke, rulers paused. When he blessed, entire kingdoms felt the weight of his words. Yet behind the reputation of this celebrated seer lay a spiritual blindness that the narrative will reveal in all its dramatic irony. Balaam's story is not just one of prophecy. It is a window into the tension between divine instruction and human desire, obedience and ambition. The story begins with a king gripped by fear. Balak, king of Moab, witnessed Israel's advance through the wilderness. He did not simply see an army moving. He saw a people enveloped in divine presence, carrying the power of God with them. His fear was not for their swords, but for the unseen spiritual force that accompanied them. It was not just a military threat, it was a spiritual one, a reality Balak could not control or comprehend. In desperation, Balak devised a plan. If swords could not conquer Israel, perhaps words could. He sought a prophet, a seer of nations, someone capable of calling curses that might defy even divine protection. Here, notice the subtle depth of the narrative. The king did not summon generals or strategists. He sought a man whose words could influence unseen forces. Already the text begins to probe a profound question. Who truly sees what God is doing? Who has spiritual insight and who is blind to it? Balaam, renowned for his prophetic insight, becomes the stage upon which these questions unfold. Balak sends his emissaries to Balaam with gifts, honor, and flattering words, requesting that he curse Israel. Balaam, appearing devout, tells them to wait while he consults the Lord. Here the story presents a moment of divine clarity. God speaks directly to Balaam, saying, "Do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." The message is explicit, leaving no room for interpretation. Yet Balaam's reply, while seemingly obedient, reveals an undercurrent of hesitation. He tells the messengers that God has refused their request, but his words hint at the possibility of compromise, a subtle opening to human desire. This is the first glimpse of spiritual blindness in Balaam. He hears God's command yet entertains the temptation of wealth, honor, and influence. How often do we act like Balaam, hearing the truth of God yet leaving ourselves loopholes to pursue personal ambition? Even with divine instruction before him, Balaam's heart flirts with compromise. Not content with the first refusal, Balak dispatches a second delegation, more distinguished, more persuasive, offering greater rewards. Balaam, caught between divine command and human temptation, now says he will stay overnight to hear more from God. Superficially, this appears to be devotion, but in truth, it is negotiation under the guise of obedience. He seeks reassurance to justify a desire already stirring within him. God, fully aware of Balaam's motives, allows him to go, but with a crucial caveat: he must speak only the words God gives him. What seems like permission is in fact a subtle judgment, exposing the divided heart of a man whose spiritual insight has been compromised by ambition. Early the next morning, Balaam saddles his donkey and sets out with Moab's princes. Yet even as he rides forward, the text makes a chilling note. God's anger was kindled because he went. The journey itself is permitted, but the heart behind it is not approved. Balaam's path, though seemingly legitimate, is now fraught with danger. In response, God positions an angel with a drawn sword on the road to intercept him, a silent, invisible barrier meant to protect the prophet from himself, to guard him against the consequences of his divided heart. Here begins a remarkable moment of divine irony. Balaam, a man celebrated for his spiritual insight, remains oblivious. He rides straight toward the angel, unaware of the imminent danger. Yet his donkey perceives the threat immediately. In 3 successive encounters, the donkey attempts to avoid the angel. On the first, she veers into a field. Balaam strikes her in frustration. On the second, the angel blocks the narrow path between 2 vineyard walls, crushing Balaam's foot against the stone. Again, he strikes her. On the third, there is no way to move. The donkey lies down, yielding completely, and Balaam, consumed by pride and anger, hits her once more. The contrast is stark. The donkey acts with instinct, reverence, and a protective sense of danger. Balaam reacts with frustration, rage, and ignorance. The 3 strikes are more than literal acts. They are symbolic of spiritual blindness, the perils of pride, and the consequences of ignoring divine guidance. Then comes a moment without precedent. God opens the donkey's mouth. The animal speaks, reasoning with the prophet. "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" The donkey speaks with clarity, patience, and logic, qualities the human prophet had failed to exercise. Balaam responds as if conversing with a human servant, arguing with the animal. The surreal nature of this exchange underscores the central theme. Spiritual perception is not determined by title, fame, or eloquence. The donkey appeals to history and loyalty. Have I ever acted this way before? Was I ever disobedient to you? Her words carry more insight than Balaam's actions, revealing the spiritual truth that those we assume powerless may possess greater discernment than the celebrated. Finally, God opens Balaam's eyes and he sees the angel standing before him with a sword drawn. The prophet falls face down in fear, confronted by the holiness he had long claimed to serve, yet failed to recognize. The angel speaks. "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I came to oppose you because your way is perverse before me." The donkey saw me and turned aside. If she had not, I would have killed you and spared her life. The irony here is breathtaking. The one with no name, no title, no authority, becomes the vehicle of mercy. The celebrated seer, the prophet renowned for insight, nearly loses his life. Spiritual authority, the narrative teaches, is not measured by reputation or eloquence, but by the alignment of the heart with God's will. Balaam's error is not ignorance. He heard God, but stubborn pursuit of personal ambition over obedience. This story is far more than a bizarre anecdote. It is a timeless lesson. God uses whatever means he wills to reveal truth, sometimes even a talking animal. Balaam's donkey becomes teacher, herald, and protector, guiding a man blinded by ambition. It demonstrates that when God is ignored, the very world around us can intervene, sometimes through the simplest and least expected agents. The narrative extends into layers of spiritual reflection. It challenges assumptions about authority, wisdom, and insight. Titles do not grant spiritual perception. Reputation does not equate to obedience. Even the least in the natural hierarchy can perceive divine truth when the proud and powerful are blind. Balaam's donkey saw what the prophet could not. She acted with reverence, he with fury. The story underscores the vital principle that God's interventions often appear in subtle, unexpected forms, and that spiritual obedience is always more important than outward appearance or societal recognition. Consider the larger implications. How often do we, like Balaam, pursue paths permitted but not endorsed, hearing God yet negotiating with our own desires? How frequently do we miss divine signals because pride, ambition, or self-interest cloud perception? The story warns us that obedience must precede ambition, that spiritual sight is not merely hearing, but responding faithfully, and that God may choose the humblest instruments to reveal profound truths. The road between Moab and Balaam, therefore, is not merely a historical setting. It is a stage for exploring the nature of discernment, the peril of divided hearts, and the unexpected ways God executes his will. It reminds us that hearing God is insufficient. Alignment of the heart, Submission to his commands and humility are essential. Even a donkey, a lowly beast of burden, can demonstrate more spiritual insight than a man celebrated as a prophet. In conclusion, the story of Balaam, his donkey, and the angel with the drawn sword is a vivid lesson in obedience, perception, and divine irony. It teaches that spiritual blindness is not the absence of information, but the refusal to submit to truth. Authority does not confer insight. The heart aligned with God does. God's wisdom can manifest through unexpected vessels, sometimes shocking human understanding. Balaam's near death and the donkey's insight remind us that spiritual vigilance is essential, and that God's mercy often comes in ways we would never anticipate. So, when you reflect upon this ancient story, remember, it is more than a talking animal or an invisible angel. It is a blueprint for spiritual awareness. Examine your own heart. Observe your intentions. Align with God's will without compromise. And never underestimate the ways God may choose to reveal truth, guide the blind, and protect the obedient, even if it comes through the most unexpected sources. For in God's economy, the smallest, humblest instrument can reveal more than the greatest prophet, and the meek may sometimes see what the mighty cannot.